Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of the podcast. I just wanted to say a quick thanks for tuning in, and if you find you enjoy it, please feel free to subscribe, give me a 5-star rating, like, and share. It really helps more than you think. Or if you want to get a hold of me and let me know personally what you think, or if you just have an idea for the podcast, or maybe you'd like to come on the podcast yourself, please feel free to email me at therealjohnstunes@gmail.com. That's therealjohnstunes, all one word, @gmail.com. Or send me a message through my Facebook page, Jonathan Vautour. You can also find me on Twitter and Instagram under the same name. Today's guest is Tyson Travnik. Tyson is a well-known jack of all trades in the local music scene here in my own hometown of Edmonton. He owns a company called Prairie Fire Events that provides all sorts of production, everything from live sound at small-time local gigs to running full-scale production at massive festivals and corporate events. Chances are, if you've played or even attended more than 2 or 3 shows in Edmonton, you've come across something Tyson has had his hands in somehow. He also has an extensive background in studio recording and is himself an incredible drummer who's played in many bands over the years, including mine from time to time. His current group is called Display of Decay. They're a hard-hitting death metal band based right here in Edmonton. They recently wrapped up their Decimate the West tour, which spanned from Edmonton across the western U.S., hitting cities like Los Angeles and Las Vegas. And some people may not know this, but Tyson is actually one of the key guys who helped get me into the music scene. He set me up with my first recordings and taught me a lot of the ins and outs when it comes to dealing with bookers, venues, and live sound. And that's exactly why I thought he would be the perfect person to have on the first episode of the podcast. So this conversation was a lot of fun. In the first half, we kind of just BS'd about a lot of random stuff that's going on. Some of it could be considered somewhat controversial, and it really doesn't have anything to do with music. So if that's not your cup of tea, then feel free to skip ahead about 1/3 or maybe halfway through. But I will leave that up to you. And please welcome Tyson Travnik. It's okay, it's alright. So, Mr. Tyson, how you doing?
No, not too bad. Are you recording?
I am recording.
Oh, neat.
I've been recording the whole time.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
podcast is almost over.
Yeah. Oh, this is it. Everybody go home. Yeah. So, what have you been up to? I haven't seen you around too much.
Man. Well, it is peak festival season, so obviously owning a production company, I'm busy as beep everywhere. We're kind of on the tailish ends-ish of it, I guess. We have right now Loud as Hell this coming weekend, which is Alberta's biggest, in my opinion, real metal festival.
Shots fired.
Yeah, we just had the real. Well, KSAB was fun. It was this past weekend. It was a good time, but like headstones on what? Like what? Really, a metal festival? No, it's
Yeah.
Like, if people went and had a good time, they had a good draw, of course, right?
Headstones is more of a old school like punk band, right? Like,
yeah, it's just like it's not going to cater well to the underground scene. Yeah, they had heavy hitters like Slayer and Gwar, and so that was a good time. But
I feel like metalheads are pretty open though. Like even if it's something they're not like super into, they'll kind of.
But it's not. Oh yeah, like it's true, but they're not going to cater to the underground scene with a $200 ticket.
I agree.
And put it in perspective, like they're not like big, huge bands, but there are some awesome bands around this country
that should have had that spot.
There's well, not even that, but they're like even international bands as well that come to a lot of these festivals. Mm-hmm. And you're looking at, for example, Loud as Hell, like shameless plug for them right now. I think the pre-sale tickets are, I think they're still on. Don't quote me on that. But it's $100 and we'll get you in for 40+ bands and camping. Mm-hmm. Like, man, you spend $100 to go camping alone half the time.
You know, that's something that's always baffled me. Like, you any other festival you want to go to, like you want to go to like Big Valley Jamboree or any other type of festival out there, any genre of music.
Yep.
Metal festivals are incredibly affordable.
Yeah, and
like I don't know what it is.
A lot of it is fueled by the passion. It really is, and we're not rich. That's why we hate society. So it's there's a lot of like small festivals at Alberta. That's why they call it the festival province. It's true.
It's kind of a two-edged sword, isn't it? Because that whole scene is kind of super underground, but it's in a way it's a protected scene. Because it's underground.
It's to a point. Like the thing is, like in all the metal festivals that the smaller ones, like say if you exclude some like Heavy Montreal, which are again big festivals. Bigger than KSAB even. Like they're even bigger than Big Valley for sure. They're huge. I believe, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure that Heavy Montreal is the biggest festival in Canada. I could be wrong. It's definitely one of the biggest metal festivals in the world.
Right. Well, I know about it, and I'm not even like
yeah,
a
it's
huge metal
it's
guy.
huge.
So,
It's massive.
yeah.
But the exclusion of them, there's a lot of small festivals of every genre that dot all over the place. However, metal in general seems to have a much more loyal following. People are going every year, whether or not there's regardless of what bands are playing. They're not as sticky.
No, you're right. They're more like the old
it's
scene.
like a
like
family
they go,
gathering. It really
they go
is.
for the music, not for the band.
100%. They're going for, again, usually it's like, yeah, they like to party, but it's usually two reasons. It's to see if people they haven't seen for quite a while, because you do have a lot of return people and that are going to go regardless. And people are going to go to hang out with their friends, not necessarily to get hammered and just be stupid and try to get laid. That's all it is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And and people know that there's a stigma around the metal community, so they do their best to be on their best behavior.
Right.
Yeah, and it's awesome. You notice how there's like really no problems at the Chaos AV Festival, and that was open to like radio rock and stuff like that. So now imagine you had that same festival, with you look at your Friday lineup, and then your second lineup you had King Diamond and Bathory and bands like that. Like it's just completely different.
It's true, and I've had this conversation with a few people, and again, this is coming from somebody who like I appreciate sort of from a distance the particular art form. Like I'm not a huge metal fan. There's lots of metal that I do really like, but I'm not like a metalhead. There's a lot of music that I like that it's just my taste, right?
Of course.
So just to put that off to the side, that I'm not particularly biased with the genre, but objectively looking at that scene versus many other scenes, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, I'm sure, but I've had arguments about it. There seems to be a lot less. And you wouldn't think so, but there seems to be a lot less violence and a lot less criminal activity taking place at these festivals.
1,000%.
Yeah.
There's
an alarming statistic out there. I saw the other, not that long ago. Like, there's like dozens and dozens of like rape accusations at the Big Valley Jamboree.
100%. It's rape fest. I absolutely. I've been calling it out for years, and but it's true. I believe, again. I don't have the facts in front of me, but I remember reading this somewhere. Or maybe I did hear it from someone who knew a lot about the festival, but I'm pretty sure if you look at like Vakken, which is the biggest metal festival in the world, they've been running for 25 plus years. I believe the only death they've ever had there, and again, I could be wrong, but I believe I heard this, that it was someone who died by accidentally passing out due to carbon monoxide poisoning from a generator. Total freak. That could have happened
as
anywhere.
in like their tent was near the generator type thing?
Totally. Or they got drunk and passed out near a generator, something like that. Just freak. But it's true. Like I said, like I've done hundreds of metal shows, mixed it, promoted it, whatever, and I've never seen like a big brawl or anything like that, or anyone ODing. Like some of the festivals we have had, like people like have alcohol poisoning and stuff like that. But that's gonna happen almost every bar out there, it seems, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is, those same people are gonna have all their buddies and stuff trying to get them help,
right?
Instead of just worrying about themselves, which again could be a little bit biased, but it's a very self-policing scene. That word's used a lot, and yeah, it's true, man. It's a stigma that everyone realizes is there, and we do our best to beat it down. That's for sure.
Right. Well, that's awesome. Yeah. So, wanted to talk a bit about some like current event stuff. I'm sure you've heard about that great big fiasco going on all over the place. What do you think about the Area 51 raid stuff?
Ooh, the Area 51 raid. I'm just gonna sit back and see what happens.
Yeah. What do you think? Actually, what do you think is gonna happen? Do you think people are gonna show up for that?
I think people, like a small amount of people will show up, like the people that are dumb enough.
Right.
I got lots of friends in the States, and you guys are all awesome, but the majority of you are retarded. And the fact that people think that having their own long rifles, and I'm an avid gun owner as well, but having your own long rifles and pistols and stuff is not going to stop a tank. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's the what you think the government has is not even remotely the surface of what I'm sure they have.
Well, so now, like here, I agree with you in this context. Like, I definitely, okay, I don't want to make this a whole huge political gun debate.
No.
But I will say, definitely, a couple of citizens that know how to use their AR-15s can definitely hold off a lot of really technically advanced military for sure. That's exactly what happened.
You're trying to hold off a nuke? It's
Well,
not that easy.
Okay, well,
I'm just saying.
But
If
how many militaries are going to nuke their entire own populace?
I would.
Okay, well, you're not the average
People are
citizen.
stupid.
But,
no,
okay,
you know
but
that's what I'm saying though. Like it's just like the wrong guy at the wrong button does
right,
stuff, right?
But I will say this. It's a vastly different game. Like if you have to fend off and protect, your own life and your own land and everything, your own home, your family from an invading force or a military turned tyrannical. That's a far cry from invading a protected military facility.
That was my point. It's like
so I will agree with you. Like
the people that think they're gonna get anywhere remotely close to a government base that's
these
protected.
Towers with mounted 50 caliber railguns all over the place. Like
they know that area better than
firing
anybody.
3,000 rounds per minute.
Not gonna happen.
No, absolutely.
Yeah,
not.
go to any military base. That's gonna happen. Not just Area 51. They're like they have those that protection there for a reason.
What's the military? What's it called? The military base just north of Edmonton. Edmonton. What's it called? It's
Garrison.
Yeah.
No, that's that's one in Edmonton.
I can't remember what the name.
Cold
is.
Lake, you're thinking?
No. There's the base
done
just
now, I
north of Edmonton with all the like all the residencies there and everything.
Yeah, that's Garrison, isn't it?
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's Garrison.
And you can't roll in there without somebody
no, you need
super
proper
suspicious
ID
of you.
for sure. Yeah,
Like it's not that you're not allowed to be there. Like
Correct,
you are.
Yeah.
But they're like super skeptical. So you're telling me you're gonna roll up on like a secret military base and you're gonna storm that place and they're not gonna be like all over you instantly?
No,
like
it's not gonna happen.
it's just no.
I think like extraterrestrial anything is absolutely plausible. Like the chances are huge. However, I've got my doubts that there's any evidence on that base.
Well,
the government's not that stupid that think about it. Something that if the public thinks something is going to be there, if the government actually does have anything,
you think they're
it ain't
just
going to be
steps
there.
ahead instantly?
It's going to be at Area 53 or something. It's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Like, duh. Why would you keep it at the place people think you have it?
Yeah. Well, it makes sense that you like that could have been the place at one period.
Oh,
of time,
it absolutely could have been.
And you're getting
for
news
sure.
like 20 years down the road. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's not like you. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, what the public knows is not even any knowledge we have of any government technology is not even the surface of what's now, and it's years later.
That
it is.
poor son of a bitch that made that joke, that organized the whole. It was a joke, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and now he's like all freaking out. He's like, every day that kid, you think it's stressful living a life as a musician. You strap for cash and everything. That poor son of a bitch is going to bed every night like, oh fuck, nobody do this.
I've killed so many people.
This guy's like, I'm worse than Hitler.
Oh, but the thing is, Hitler didn't just only kill stupid people. There's a difference.
Well,
yeah. It's people believe whatever they want to read on the internet. It's amazing.
Right.
It's
just funny because don't get me wrong. Like I love meme culture. It's great
sure.
for a laugh. It's hilarious. But on the other, this is just a perfect example of a joke that just went way too far. You know what I mean?
It's
like you never think your graffiti is gonna hurt somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then somebody sees this graffiti and they're like, yeah, and then they go shoot somebody. like, whoa, that's a new level, all right? So
it's I think a lot of people just I don't know. It's a handful of people are going to show up, but it's just not going to go anywhere.
Right.
People are going to collect their souvenirs and go on.
I definitely think people are going to show up. I don't think it's going to be everybody that it says they're going to show up.
No, fewer people.
Think just mathematically from somebody who's organized shows, you can pretty much expect 10% of what.
Oh, dude,
I'm going. Say they're going.
I'm going on. I'm not.
We'll be there. We'll be there. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. You can expect me.
We'll be podcasting live. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think of this? I don't know. Have you heard about this? The transgender waxing case coming out of BC.
I have not. Do tell.
Okay, so the long and the short of it is that. Do you remember a few years ago when that homosexual couple wanted to commission that Christian baker to bake a cake?
Yeah, I do remember that.
So we went really quickly from that to now wax my balls.
Oh wait, yes, I did hear this.
Yeah.
Yes, I did read this somewhere.
So
yeah.
So for those of you who haven't heard, essentially what has happened is a transgender woman, that is to say, someone who was born biologically with male appendages. Try not to offend everybody in one podcast. Essentially went into one of those female Brazilian wax establishments, and they only service females, right? So This individual goes in there trying to get a wax and is very disappointed to find out that they will not wax his female testicles, Z's
whatever you
female
want.
testicles.
Yeah, pick one.
So, and now it's decided, this person has decided it's a human rights violation and is therefore going to the Supreme Court about it, and it's a whole thing. So I don't know what, like, it's a bit of a kerfuffle. It's not a clean, like, I don't know. I'm completely on one side of it.
I'm too, and I think I could probably offer a blanket statement, and it's just my stance on anything like this. As a business owner, you should have the right to refuse business to anybody that you want.
Right.
It's that simple, and it can be literally anything. Like, unless it's something like it's something absolutely necessary for them.
Right.
Like you refuse to let them bring their groceries through your till or something stupid.
Yep.
But even then, they can always go to a different grocer.
And this is my stance is too is not that I don't have sympathy for somebody in that situation where they're refused service and they feel very put down by it. But I kind of I'm looking at it from the other point of view too, where it's like, so we're going to effectively force these women to handle your private parts, and they're uncomfortable with that. Aren't we like me tooing them?
If you're uncomfortable with if you're uncomfortable with anything at your workplace, you do not have to do it. It's that simple.
Right. But as a business owner, that's not the case apparently, right?
It's
just such a slippery slope. Like, we went from you have to bake me a cake to you have to handle my testicles.
Yeah,
like,
it's
that.
It's I think it's just such a small battle, and it's that's completely out of proportion for what it is. He could have absolutely gone and found another spa or something like that. I'm sure that could have done it.
Right.
I'm sure there's a ton out there that do men, and sorry, man, it's physical biology. You know what I mean? Like, if you got...
You said it. I'm backing off.
I don't care if you have a Chev. If you got a Ford engine in it, you probably should find a mechanic that knows the Ford. It's just, yeah. Sorry, man, but it's just the way it is.
It's a growing I think too, people are making a spectacle out of it now.
Yep.
Like, we live in a country too where we're hypersensitive to the way everybody feels about everything, and that's not always a terrible thing.
I'm not.
Well, okay.
I'll say that right now.
You're the exception, not the rule. And I mean, it's not a terrible thing. Like, having empathy and and trying to make everybody more accepting. It's a good intention, but I think we've weaponized empathy, and it's a scary thing.
There's nothing wrong with trying to make everyone feel included. However, when that gets to the point of they try to segregate themselves into their own special little pools,
right,
that's a different problem. And it's like, you just can't have your cake and eat it too.
Well, and so something I'm kind of like, not to get like really far off track, but the whole transgender thing as a whole, it baffles me a little bit. Like, I'm on the side of there are people out there with this condition, and they are 100% like, it's not like, I'm not saying I don't think it's a choice. I think they legitimately have this condition, and it's a real thing. I'm on that side.
Of course.
However, statistically, it's like less than 2% of the population.
Yeah.
So in the last few years, since this has become so publicized and has essentially dominated the conversation and the culture, that number has skyrocketed. Like, there's just, I think it's become popular. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think there's that many people that are transgender.
No, it
doesn't seem possible to me.
No, I think a lot of it is people, because it's become, quote, more accepting. People start maybe questioning themselves a little bit more. And I'm sure there's a percentage of people that now feel more comfortable to express themselves the way they want to.
Like, they were hiding it before.
Sure, and that's completely fine. But even if you talk to like people in the community, they will tell you that it's ridiculous because it's almost become a fad.
I agree.
And it's completely torn apart anything that they've put effort into getting the movement to where it is.
And listen, everybody, like, we're not hating on the LGBT community.
Absolutely not.
Like, this is not.
You can do whatever you want in your own, with your own life and everything like that. It doesn't hurt anybody. Giver.
But I don't want to wax your testicles.
No,
and I don't want to make these ladies wax your testicles. And I don't think that's.
And you know what?
Right.
I think if you talk, I guarantee you this: if you talk to most people in the LGBT community, they would agree. It's like, if you they're not going to go out of their way to make someone unsafe with what they want to do either, man.
Like, I want to agree with you when you say that, but I gotta say, in the last let's say the last 3 years, and you can see where that lines up, I've lost a lot of friends who were on the and not because I didn't want to be friends with them, but because they did not agree with my particular views on freedom and what was infringing on whose freedom and what the definition of what a right is, what should and should not be a right. I think there's just a lot of people out there that are really misinformed about what those words mean, or they're not static meanings for them. Like the language shifts too much, and so we can't have this conversation with people that don't understand the language or where you're coming from. It's really frustrating.
It's true, and it's a really loaded topic. It's that's hours of podcast right there.
Yeah.
It's but again, it's a really hard thing to put a finger on a right or wrong answer, because there's so many case by case basis things, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, in the end, it's, I don't know, there's just my belief on it is if you do whatever you want, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody, but you shouldn't have to make people shift what they're doing to accommodate that. And don't make it your primary identity. Yeah. Because that just,
Yeah. Well, you can fit in whatever camp you want, but that camp can't club the masses, right?
Bingo.
Like it's and that being said, the masses shouldn't club the minority either, right? But it's just, that's the whole thing, is that you're bringing the government into this, and it's a mess, right? Like,
it is what it is, unfortunately.
So maybe you haven't heard this either, because I mean I know you said later that after you had kind of heard about it, but I guess this individual also has had some, let's say, discrepancies about being in situations with children where things were a little inappropriate, and they were
talking about Subway, Jared.
Yeah, that's along
cool.
those lines. Yeah, there was some sexual inappropriate behavior, or allegedly.
And who
this same transgender individual. Yeah, they were petitioned.
Man, I've heard so many cases of this.
Yeah,
unfortunately, that's just unfortunately what's in the news. That's not saying that, obviously.
It seems to be
people are pedophiles or anything. It's just it's crazy, because it's what people latch on to in the media, and it's just it paints people in the wrong stereotype, unfortunately.
Well, this is something I want to say. Like, I think that I don't think that transgender people are transgender because they want to be pedophiles and it's easy to
absolutely
get away
not.
with it.
Of course,
but
not,
I will say this: it seems to me that they have a rampant problem in their community with this. It really, and I will say the same thing about the Catholic priesthood. Like, I like, that's something that they need to deal with. They need to root it out and get rid of it. But I think it's a real problem. Like, there are people that, like, I don't know, maybe it's just I have no idea what it is, but it's not nice.
I don't think there's enough, like, I don't think there's enough information on that particular topic. Like, I think that either of us really know to really dive into it.
Yeah, I'm speaking completely anecdotally. Like,
there very well could be, but it's that's a tough one, man. I really got no comment on that. I don't know too much about it.
Right.
But
you should check it out. It's I was reading some articles, and I mean, you know what? Yeah, biased news sources or whatever. Like, I'm open to reading whatever and kind of getting all sides of it, but I don't know, man. Like, that's one thing I just can't get on board with. I can be open, I can be accepting, but the minute we start bringing children into things, you lost me. Like,
fair enough.
I'm far away from that planet.
Granted, again, it's the extreme of anything that's going to get the media attention, right? It could be 1% of that 1%, and that's what's going to get all the media attention.
That's true.
So it's like I said, like, it's look at the Catholic priesthood thing. You could totally say that, and like, oh, all these priests. It's like, well, no, there's like thousands of priests out there, and I'm sure it's a very small percentage of them that are doing it. You know what I mean?
I don't know about that.
It's not 50% or something stupid. That's my point, right? It's not some, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not some, like, because we'd be like locking up. We would have a coup at that point. I'm just saying it's not, it's the extreme of anything, and it doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's going to get media attention, because otherwise it doesn't make news, right?
This is true.
Yeah.
But that's part of the problem is a lot of the time it doesn't get media attention, right? Like, there's alternative news sources that will put up things, and then a lot of people are like, is it even real? Right. So it gets media attention, but it's kind of like shoved into the corner because a lot of people don't accept those news sources. Then there's not any real journalism done on these topics, right? It's because you have sort of protected classes in a way, right? And that's a problem.
That's the bittersweet thing with the internet, man. There's so many sources out there. It's really hard to find an average. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
well. What do you think? Do you think that there was ever? Because I've kind of heard both sides of this. I've heard like I 100% agree that there is, news sources that are biased in one particular direction, politically or dogmatically, right? And then news sources that are, really biased in the other direction. But a lot of people say, and they sort of think that at one point in time it was totally different, like that news sources were at one point just news and there was no dogma in them. And then I've heard it the other way too, where they say, no, it's always been this way. Just we were not able to tell the difference because we didn't have the internet to do our own and get the other side of the story, do our own research, get the other side of the story, that kind of thing.
I think.
Do you think there was what do you think? What side do you line up on?
That's a tough one because I'm like, obviously neither of us were alive, when TV was first out or
this
even
is
radio.
True. Yeah.
But the advertisement industry has thousands of % more active than it ever was back then. Like don't get me wrong, of course it was advertising, but it wasn't just like I can't listen. I haven't listened to commercial radio in years because
right.
I just can't stand the advertising.
Right.
It's just insane. And again, if you look at something like the internet, again, there's so many different sources on the same topic. I can't remember where I was reading this, but they did a small study where they took 3 or 4 different people who had very different political backgrounds and ethnic backgrounds and all this fun, different parts of the world. And they had them Google, I think it was Egypt. Okay. And one person, and it's the amount of different search results they got was just nuts, just from their Google search history and all the cookies that they scraped.
Hold on. So they were searching a particular Egypt.
They just literally Googled Egypt.
Okay.
That's it. So you'd think if it was a non-biased, or if it wasn't tweaked for your own personal life.
Oh, so they were getting news sources in the Google search?
Yes. So the one guy would get, he got a lot of information on tourist stuff. He just had nothing. He just a very,
It wasn't political.
No, it wasn't political at all. And one was getting a bunch of links to all these anti-Muslim pages and stuff like that. So it's just crazy how different, how the interests and the kind of activity that you have on the internet, how it really dictates of where you're going to get your news sources from first. Even if you could literally Google alternative news source and you're going to get news sources that would probably cater to you because they're probably driven by the advertisements that you would want to buy.
Like they're running off your metadata.
100%. And it's really hard to get away from that because it's, we all love technology.
Well, I mean, it is and it isn't. I mean, the simple, not for people out there that aren't all that tech savvy, the quick answer is a VPN, right?
Sure, but not everything runs through a VPN. You know what I mean?
You can run everything through a VPN.
Well, yeah, but that sure is a pain in the ass. So
it can be.
Sure, but I'm just saying, it doesn't take much for, you fill out a small online survey, or you fill your name on a ticket or something like that. There's always ways for them to capture your information somewhere. You can limit it, of course.
I hear what you're saying. I definitely agree. I think that we live in a society that either values too greatly our information or too little, in the sense that all of our information is out there, and all these companies have access to it. Now, I'm personally kind of on the side, and I do think that's dangerous. First of all, I do think that there is risk involved in that, and I think that there's a balance. But I'm a little more on the side of I think that that's a good thing, and the reason personally for it, because I always hear people complaining about, all these companies have all my information, and they just don't understand how ads and Facebook and metadata and all this stuff work. They have no idea. Yeah. As somebody who has run Facebook ads quite a bit, I can tell you that it's not like I can go into Facebook ads data and be like, oh, where does Tyson live? Oh, Tyson drinks this kind of. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
It doesn't. It's just metadata.
Correct.
So what it does is show you more of what you want to see. I don't want to get ads for pink dildos because I don't really care about pink dildos. Are you sure? Well,
I can send you some. I've made my own.
But you get my point, right? I want ads for things that I would potentially want to buy. That's good for me. If I'm looking for something and the internet's like, hey, he's really going to want this. Here's the best price for this. Here's whatever. It's free shipping. And you're like, oh, sweet. That's exactly what I wanted. That's super convenient.
Yeah, you're more of a blue butt plug guy anyway, so.
Yeah, well.
But no, it's true. But again, if we're talking sales, it's one thing, right? But again, if we're not just talking sales. We're talking political views. We're talking it's everything. Yeah, it's literally everything.
Yes,
and it wasn't just Egypt. They did a few other things one guy they did something with video games, and it was like, it's just incredible. Like none of them had ever gamed online, and somehow it found games that they were interested in.
Interesting.
It's unreal. Like, and it's, again, we're what we know about it is not even remotely as deep as it could go. It's just insane. So it's,
well, that's a true AI, right? Like everybody
100%,
thinks that an AI is going to be like this Terminator-esque.
No, that's what AI is.
We already have AI
it's
out there.
100%. It's in everything, dude.
Yeah.
And it's like it's good and bad. Like, it's good because it does streamline what the activity of the internet. You don't have to
It's
dig through
infinitely
everything.
valuable.
Yeah.
Infinitely valuable.
But again, it's there's money to be made. So where there's money, there can be corruption and all that fun stuff. So
I agree. Yeah. No. I see what you're saying. Like you're coming from the point of like creating an echo chamber for yourself,
more or less.
And I totally agree with that. Like
you can brick wall yourself really quick and not even know it. Yeah.
But now the challenge is, but here's the other thing too, is you can do that, and I think people were doing that for a long period of time, even without the internet, right? Because you just surround yourself by like-minded people, right? Birds of a feather, right?
Sure.
But the reality is that we should all just have the responsibility to know when too much is too much, and to find the balance of, okay, I got to have some of this perspective. And when we hear something, not to just jump on one particular side of the wagon.
That's totally true. I think
I struggle with that hard. Like, this is not coming.
It's not easy. It's not easy. And you have to actively try to do that. And even then, there's definitely instances where you think you're doing that and you're really not. You know what I mean? And you don't even know until later.
Yeah. And
I think when the internet was first spawned, it was definitely easier because it was a no holds barred kind of thing, right?
Right.
But it's really tough to see where it can go. And then, like, the next 10 years, the internet's it's still in its infancy when you think about it. Like, as far as how long, how many years other technologies come from. Look at cars.
Right.
How are they? And then they're barely 100 years old. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, that's nothing. The internet's what, like 20 years old?
Yeah.
If that, like, it's crazy.
Well, it's brings the greater question. Like, do you think anybody relatively had any concept of what kind of technology was going to come around in the future? Like,
absolutely
it's not possible. So for us to say, oh yeah, this is where technology is going,
we have no idea.
It's just foolish.
We have no idea.
Just foolish.
I know there is an exponential curve somewhere. I remember seeing somewhere where just, again, every 10 years, we double the technology we have, and it's just crazy.
You're talking about the power of 10.
Something like that.
I forget what the term is, but the theory is basically that every 10 years, the speed and the rate of which you gain new technology or invent new technology,
it's crazy.
It grows by the power of 10.
Yes, so it's insane.
So where you have 10 years of progress, after that you're going to have 100 years of progress in 10 years, and then you're going to have 1,000 years of progress in 10 years, because it's going to improve tenfold.
I vividly remember when the iPhone 3 came out, or the 3G. No, sorry, the first iPhone, and I thought it was the stupidest thing ever.
Right.
I'm like, why would you spend this much money for this thing?
And it makes sense.
And now I'll lose my mind if I don't have my phone.
And it makes sense because what we were used to as phones, we had these little flip and slide devices in our pocket.
And they played Snake on it. And it was awesome.
Yes, exactly. And you had these devices, and they flipped, and they had buttons, and you rang people, and that was and then you see this silly looking little brick thing with a screen, like a flat touch screen. And you're like, what is this? It's both a media device and a phone. Like, what? Why would I want those together?
Made no sense.
We used to have phones and media players. We used 100%.
To have 100%.
I had like 3 iPods, right?
Yeah, for sure, and they were awesome. And it's like, and it's when you think about it, it's crazy. I think eventually technology is going to start kind of digging a big hole for consumerism in the point where it's going to advance so quickly that the products that are made in 1 year are all going to end up in the trash the next year, because they're not even upgradable anymore. How many times like they're like,
never thought of that.
If you ever, like, I've spent a while over the last year just looking at how human waste works, and like there's billions of food in North America alone wasted, and for no reason. It's insane.
Yeah.
And that alone could feed the world over 3 times or something stupid. And now if you look at what have you done with your old iPods? Where are they?
In a drawer somewhere.
Sure. And and eventually where are they going to go?
Probably
recycle or something,
I'm
right?
with you. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So like now, and we're talking small things. Yeah, sure. And and then again, we're talking the power of 10 thing. As things get bigger and more electronics start making their way into bigger appliances like things like cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Eventually, those things are not going to be as upgradable as needing a whole new device. You know what I mean? Like I remember being able to upgrade your phone pretty easily to something pretty powerful by getting a new SD card or upgrading your computer with RAM.
Right.
Now within a year, it's like the amount they advance is insane.
Yes.
And it's like, why even bother? It's going to have double the memory next year or something.
No, I
right?
hear you.
Yeah.
But now, like, let me present sort of an alternative view on that, because that's one possibility, and that's very real. Now, as we know it, kind of recycling is kind of viewed as sort of a government problem, right? Like we expect the government to recycle this. We have government run recycling programs. The bottles we pay deposit, and that's held in trust, and right. So we see it as a governmental job. Now, my personal opinion on that is that's kind of a fundamental mistake, because the market drives production, right? So recycling needs to be profitable, and it can be profitable. There's lots of companies out there that are recycling companies that make their money by recycling things. Yeah. Now, so when it comes to something like this, you're like where you say consumerism is going to overtake the market and everything's going to become waste, and it's just going to be every couple minutes you have a new device that's a million times more powerful or whatever. That's a possibility. Now, there already are people out there who are recycling these old devices.
Of course,
right?
Yeah.
So who's to say that we're not just going to start building products that are far more recyclable, and that there's going to be more money in the actual back end?
We absolutely
recycling?
could. I think
like there's a lot of minerals in those materials too, like things like really like cobalt and gold and like
of
things.
Course,
like circuit boards.
We're talking like the actual physical electronics themselves. I think the biggest thing that like the biggest problem I think that we have, especially in first world countries, one is to get us away from plastics. That's huge, because you can't really recycle them as well as people think you can. Yeah, some you can, but like your iPod's not that recyclable. The shell isn't going to go anywhere except for
okay, so then actually, you know what? Continue. I'll ask you this after.
And especially when you get to the other thing is getting people to realize that they don't need everything they really think they need. It's the over consumerism in North America and other first world countries that are really the killer. If it came down to it, where if you didn't have a PlayStation and an Xbox, and
feeling
not
personally attacked.
Whatever. Like I've got a PS4 as well, and it's great. But I'm just saying, like if you didn't have, would people, if it really came down to it, give up a few of their own things to make sure that the consumer waste was down to the point where we had maybe some more money to spend on giving people food.
Right.
And that's the tough one,
And see, this is the problem is we treat. My point is we treat recycling like has to be this big government thing, right? Well, guess what? If we all just recycled a little bit of our own waste, it wouldn't be such a freaking problem.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
But people are lazy.
My house, my two brothers, and my parents, you know how much actual garbage we produce in a month? A grocery bag.
There you go.
Like literally,
that's rare.
Well,
that's
but
very rare.
It's because we separate. Like my dad is extremely environmentally conscious.
Yeah. And he's thrifty, right? Like,
yes,
and that's. But that's rare, having people that are resourceful.
But it's doable.
Of course,
that's what I'm
doable.
trying to say. Is it's very doable. The problem is people they want the tax dollars taken off their paycheck, and they don't want to have to work. They want to wipe their guilt away with those tax dollars.
100%.
So what I'm trying to say is if people would just if they would start separating their own shit, and they would compost a little bit, it's not that difficult.
No, it's not.
It doesn't have to be a big government city project, right?
But that's the beauty of consumerism is if you're too lazy to do something, someone else is going to do it for you and get and
that's not a terrible thing though.
No, but
it has downsides,
of course.
Sure.
But eventually, that's going to come down to that person's going to use some kind of resources for their business,
right?
And so forth and so forth. So all of a sudden, that one person. Now you created a job, they're going to be recycling whatever. You think they're like all their office supplies come out of nowhere? Like, no, man. Like, is it their fuel to do all that stuff? Like, that's my point. I think it's an endless loop in that point. But the biggest problem is just straight up over consumerism.
But there is
a point.
But there is a point though, because I mean, you think about a business has to have in the same model as a business has to have profit. Like you spend less money to make more money is essentially right. Like you save dollars somewhere and you can make money. That's what profit is, right?
Right.
In this by the same line of logic, the same model, you can recycle more than you contribute to waste, right? That's what a recycling company theoretically would do. That would be the model, right?
Right.
And I work for a company that does exactly that. right? Like we generate way less waste than we save.
Right.
For those of you that don't know, I work at a recycling facility where we recycle tear-off roofing shingles. It's very boring, but that's essentially the model. Like, again, there's no reason why these have to be big government problems. We just need to have personal responsibility.
Of course, but again, it's hard to drive people home, or it's hard to drive that home into people when they're used to what they're used to, and that's just it. It's like same thing. Like here's a great example. If they built a car that like something like a smart car, but just a little smarter,
right?
Or more people rode motorcycles and all that kind of stuff.
That's
how
my favorite argument too.
How many people are driving around in cars all over the place? That's
sitting in the drive-through, their engines idling,
and it's like it's the epitome of waste, and it's unreal. And like that's one of the biggest reasons I bought a diesel truck. It's like it's a 1-ton. I do a lot of heavy hauling with it, but I did do what I could do it without using any other materials and resources,
right?
To try to burn as little fuel as possible, and it's incredible on fuel. And like I love muscle cars and all that kind of stuff, but it's like the epitome of waste. Unfortunately, just to cruise around and burn fuel is crazy. And unfortunately, some things in life just they cost resources, especially non-renewable resources like fuel.
It's always my answer whenever anybody starts talking about fossil fuels and the waste and stuff, is that like my answer is everybody should own a motorcycle.
Oh, of course.
And you know what? I realize also we live in a world where we need to have heavy trucks to move things and do jobs. You can have both. Motorcycles are extremely affordable, and guess what? You only need to ride them when you don't need your truck. And then guess what?
Bingo.
Fuel consumption is immediately less than half of what it is.
Oh, it's awesome.
It really is affordable. It really is.
It's great, and it's your insurance is nothing.
My insurance for the entire year is like $300.
There you go. So, yeah, mine's
and that's Canadian. It's
and it's great, and nothing. You don't see people frowning on motorcycles.
No,
that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, that's right. We can't
unless you're riding a Harley.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah,
my dad's gonna listen to this.
That's fine.
Son of a bitch.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all right.
Mine's running.
I'm not a Harley guy. Oh, burn. Oh, he's gonna hear that too. Okay. No. All right. So we've kind of covered every problem in the world. So now every problem should be solved.
Absolutely.
And nobody should be going hungry.
Buy my book.
Buy Tyson's book.
Yeah, I'm gonna start it tomorrow.
It's mostly swear words.
Yeah, it's mostly.
Actually, you've been good. You haven't been swearing this interview at all.
I'm trying.
Okay, so we haven't really covered any like music stuff, but I have a couple questions that I want to ask you, and this is kind of part entertainment and it's part information for potentially new people, new musicians
who want
to get into the world, or even veterans that just like, I never thought of that. You know what I mean? There's always something useful to glean. But I know you kind of said before we were kind of really got going that you don't generally do a lot of promoting and booking and running local shows or anything anymore.
Yep.
But there's some information here that I think would be very useful for people that are wanting to get into that, or for bands that are trying to book more shows.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So, I've done it a lot, so there's no money in it right now for me anyway.
Yeah,
so,
I hear you. So, but okay, so as a booker or promoter, what are the most important things you look for or like to see when booking bands or artists?
If I'm a promoter booking bands, a professional EPK is huge. For those of you that don't know, I used to run the Farmageddon Open Air and Shredmonton Metal Festivals.
You can't see it, but I'm wearing the shirt right now.
Look at that, yeah. That's some swag there. That's going to be worth a lot of money one day, like another $3-4 or whatever.
There you go.
And we generally dealt with an application process of a lot of bands applying, and any festival or any popular booking agency or venue or whatever is going to get a lot of just junk. They're going to get a lot of bands like, hey, my band is, I have a new song out and we're cool and we're the best thing ever for you. No, it doesn't matter. The biggest thing that you need to show a promoter is that you are worth what you're worth to them. They're not there to do you favors. If they can throw a local band in on a bigger bill and it takes nothing out of them, cool.
And they feel like being generous.
Sure, yeah. But that's not very common. If you want to.
They're running a business.
Yes. If you need to show that you can be an asset to that promoter. Yeah. And that means, again, get yourself an electronic press kit that has a short little bio. They don't care where you were born. They want to know, obviously where your hometown is, roughly how long you've been together, what bands you played with, what bands you sound like, festivals you've done, and have a logo in there, have, a tech rider in there, make it a one-stop place that they can go for any information they need, so they don't have to hound you. And it's a huge pet peeve of mine, but this works on both ways with, pretty much anything in the music industry or any industry really. Answer your damn messages, answer your damn emails, and God, please answer your phone. Nothing will make me switch gears on someone like trying to get a hold of you and you just straight up not picking up. I don't understand. It's if festival guys can pick up their phones when they get a phone call, why can't you pick up your phone? Especially if you want to do this as a business. Like some things can change on a dime and they need to be corrected right away. So just answer I get it. Not everybody needs to have their phone on them and on all the time. If you want to take a break from having your phone on, that's fine. But if you get an email or a text message, at least answer it within 24 hours, please. It's crazy. It's just crazy. I don't know how some of these guys stay in business.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I'm definitely not. I've never promoted or run shows to the level you have, for sure. But the little bit of stuff that I do for myself, I do a lot of my own booking and I do a lot of my own work to get my own shows and stuff. And a lot of that bleeds over into booking other artists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And 100%, nothing will change your mind about somebody like when you ask them to sign a contract and get it back to you and it takes them a month to do it.
They don't want the show.
Okay, we're going to need to book somebody else.
100%.
Yeah.
When I did the festivals, with the exception of, I think, the first year, I gave them a week. You have 7 days to get me a signed contract with your tech writer and your stage plot. Mm-hmm. If you do not, we move on to the next band.
Yeah. Be quick and concise. And
there's maybe one band that doesn't, because you'd light a fire under their ass. And if they want to play, they're going to prove they want to play. It's that simple. It's not that difficult.
Right.
It takes you, my own personal band, we just finished a miniature tour in the States. And it's crazy.
What's your band?
Display of Decay. We're terrible. Don't listen to us. But it's crazy how we had to hound some of these promoters just to sign a contract. It's insane, and it's just everyone's got their own stuff to do, but we're talking a signature. Just and like obviously we're under the gun because we need them for our visas.
I feel bad when somebody asks me to sign something and send it back to them, and it takes me a day and a half to do it.
That's crazy. I'll do it on my phone right away.
Yeah, and this is I'm way behind on the technology. Like I still a lot of the time will print, sign, and send.
That's fine.
You know? But you're right. There's really no excuse because we live in an age where you can virtually sign stuff
and just say, "Hey, I'm printing this off. Get it back to you in a day." Cool. Yeah. Thanks.
Exactly.
Done.
And even that I feel bad. Like I'm like, oh, I should have had this yesterday. And blah, blah, blah.
You know what the best thing is? I think my favorite observation with technology is the people that never pick up your phone. That never answer your calls, or never text you, are the people taking selfies on Instagram all the time.
This is a good point.
It's awesome. And I'm like, how about you answer those like 75 missed calls for me? That'd be cool.
Right.
Crazy. And it's like if I'm calling you, it's usually because I really need to talk to you.
Right.
Because it's crazy.
He's just sour because so many chicks just ghost him and then he sees all their Instagram pictures
constantly, and then my wife gets mad.
Yeah. Okay. So next one. This might be a little bit of a loaded question. What is your favorite mainstream artist or band, and what is your favorite indie/local?
Oh, mainstream artist and band.
One of each, like to compare. You know, they don't have to be same genre. You know, whatever.
If we're just let's just assume that metal is non-mainstream because it's not.
That's a good point. You could say it's mostly underground. Even mainstream metal bands are somewhat underground.
Yeah, I'm not really into any I don't even know. Yeah, let's just consider mainstream as bands that would be played on the radio or something.
Tyson's musical taste is
you know what? Bougie. You know what I have to go with? Backstreet Boys.
Oh, okay.
100%. Incredible songwriting. The Midas touch on that baby, and they're awesome. That said, I watched a video of their live show and their production. Like again, just from my own background as being into production, I just that sells it for me huge. Yeah, I was expecting a little more, but I didn't end up going to the show. Unfortunately, I was busy. But their songs are awesome. Backstreet Boys rips.
Oh my God, my girlfriend's gonna listen to this and she always likes to sing Backstreet Boys.
She's my girlfriend now.
Oh yeah,
nice.
There we go. Yeah, all right. I'm never gonna hear. And okay, so you're from the local scene, or I guess it doesn't even have to be the local scene because maybe I say local scene because people know the local scene here.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to necessarily be the local scene. Just more indie. What's your favorite low key indie underground band or artist?
That's the beauty. Again,
you can throw out one or two if you want to.
Yeah, from doing a lot of these the metal festivals, and like not even just that, but even just mixing, clubs around the city. And man, there's so many good artists around there. That's why commercial radio is just the bane of the media existence. It's just the cancer of the music industry, in my opinion. How you can have the same 30, 40 bands shoved down your throat day after day is insane when you're just surrounded by gems. It's crazy. Oh, but that's a tough one, man. Wow, there's so many good ones.
Yeah, feel free to throw out a couple. I know it's hard to pick.
That's
if you
really
want to throw
hard.
out a couple, that's cool. I just wanted the contrast,
They're definitely more on the up and up because they've done really well for themselves in the last while. But Unleash the Archers from BC,
right? I've seen their
worked
stuff.
their ass off, and they've done really well for themselves. They played 70,000 tons of metal. They played Brazilian festival in Brazil, I believe. And actually another band from here from Edmonton. That's really worked their asses off in the last while and really separated the men from the boys kind of thing as far as other bands is Striker.
Right.
They've won the EMAs the last,
yeah, they're huge.
3 or 4 years or 5 years or whatever it is. And it's like, I even presented one to them a few years ago, and it was, man, like that. There's no way I could ever dedicate my time to a band like you need to play in a band like Striker. And it's obviously not just bands like that, but that band has just exploded and they bust ass.
They're a couple of hardworking guys for sure.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, they, like I said, it's like Adam Brown, the drummer, just ended up quote retiring, I guess. And he's got his career and stuff he's looking at as well. And it just shows you, his brother Tim is still in the band. It just shows you how much effort it takes to run a band like that. It's not easy. And those guys know what they're doing. So kudos to that band for sure. Right. I think they just came off a tour with Steel Panther, and now they're heading off on a tour with Holy Grail, I believe, or something like that. And that's that many days on the road is crazy, man.
Yeah, that's too much. Like, my record is 10 in a row, and that's like even that. Like the optimally, in my opinion, you got to do 2 or 3 in a day off, 2 or 3 in a day off.
And especially depends what you're doing, right? I could do like multiple days as a tech, but I'm also doing much less effort than playing in a band.
It sounds really. I always tell people it sounds ridiculous. I feel really ridiculous saying this as the musician because you work like 2-3 hours in the evening. You know what I mean? But it's more exhausting than you think it is.
Oh, for sure.
Especially if you're really trying to put on a show.
For sure. Yeah.
And so you do that every night in a row, and you're just like, oh my God, and you need to have a day to calm down. And I'm not a rest guy. Like I like to go. Yeah. But that even on that day off, you're not really a day off. You're still working. Yeah. But you need to not perform that night. And
your sleep schedule's all weird.
Yeah. And you're eating like garbage because you can't. It's hard to eat healthy on the road.
It is hard to eat healthy because a lot of it just even if you try to prep everything, it's just
1 out of 3 tours I get sick at the end. Yeah. I swear.
No one wants to start cooking something at 3 a.m. after a show that
and you don't have the proper equipment to do it either. It's not like you're traveling around with a condo,
No, yeah, it depends what you're doing. Like obviously you can bring a little camp stove and stuff, but it depends. You know what I mean? It's in the heat of the moment. A lot of times you end up at McDick's. Just the way it is.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, a lot of McDonald's and a lot of pizza.
Yeah, that's true. And it's like obviously there's you can still buy a bunch of groceries that are easy to eat, like fruit and stuff like that. But yeah, it just depends how long you're gone. Like
it just makes you poop more regular.
Sure.
That's
a week or two. A week or two is easy to manage, but it's like 30 days, 60 days. Some of these long tours, that's crazy. Yeah. I can't.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, it's hardcore.
Real hardcore.
Dibs out.
Yeah.
Unless I get paid.
I have some friends that do like cruise shows.
Oh yeah.
And so they'll do like sometimes they'll do 2 weeks, and they're playing like 3, sometimes 4 sets a night.
Yeah.
And that's like, to me, that's like,
I could do a cruise.
Yeah.
With people cooking for you.
Yeah.
That's different.
That's true. Yeah, that's a good point.
Hugely different.
That is a very good point. But what I'm trying to get at is even like that. You're right. That makes a big difference. But what I'm trying to get at is the energy lost in
for sure. Yeah. Like, and you're playing the same, especially week after week, you're playing the same damn songs over and over and over. And
all covers.
Oh, for sure.
It would be brutally draining.
There's a big difference between being, and like this goes for like a lot of bands, not just bands that are playing cruise ships and stuff, and obviously like playing full time, but there's a huge difference between, and it's a really hard pill to swallow as you get older as a musician, between being an enthusiast, even you can be an incredible enthusiast, but you're still a hobbyist.
Yeah.
If you're paying your bills by playing music, then you're a professional.
Yep.
I by no means am a professional musician. I've been playing drums a long time. Doesn't mean a damn thing. It's we still want to do what we can.
And there's a distinction too, because you're a professional individual. Like, you are professional, but you're not a professional.
There's a difference between professionalism and being a professional at what you do.
Correct.
Yes, hugely. And again, there's guys that are volunteers at what they do, and they're awesome. Like, I got a friend of mine who's a front of house tech at a church, completely volunteer, and he's never mixed anything outside of that. But man, is he ripping that rig?
Yep.
And he's completely self-taught, minus like a couple other guys, and it's like, I think he'd be lost.
That's a gem too, because churches have terrible sound techs, terrible systems,
and they have
terrible gear.
a nice little system he put together, and like, he's done his research, but that's his jam, and he is professional at what he does.
Yep.
But again, he's not getting paid for what his work is. But
but you know what? That's his thing though. And that's great. And that's great.
Nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
Okay. Last question. What's the story of the worst gig you've ever run or played?
Oh man, that I've ever run or played.
Well, you can give me one of both.
I don't think I've ever played any bad gigs, to be honest.
You never played a gig where it's just like everything was like, not that you did a bad job, but everything was garbage. Like,
nothing that rings a bell, to be honest.
Okay. I thought I was gonna get a doozy of a story there.
No, I really can't think of like a gig that I've like. I think just myself as a player, I've done my best to try. Like, it's nice to be able to have everything prime, but I've done my best to try to accommodate to everything that gets thrown at me, if that makes sense.
Yep.
The hardest things I think I found as a player is playing shows that I'm also running.
Yep.
That's a tough one, because you're now double dutying everything, and
you're wearing like 8 hats.
Yeah, it's not, and like, it's funny because some of my best performances have been when I've had like no sleep for 3 days, which just makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah. Sometimes you're just on it. That's it.
Yeah, I've been warmed up for days. Let's do this. But yeah, I can't really think of anything, man. I think like, I remember even playing a show, like, that wasn't a bad show at all. I remember playing a show at Deviate quite a while ago, and I ended up sharing a kit with a left-handed drummer. Oh. And I played it just to see if I could do it.
Huh.
And it wasn't my best playing ever, but it's cool. Just make it work, right?
It's sloppy, eh?
Yeah, it wasn't even that. I just had to improvise some of the fills, and it wasn't like my pinnacle of playing, but it did the job.
I'm not a drummer. I understand the fundamentals and stuff, but now a left-handed drummer, is the whole kit totally reversed?
Mirror image, usually. Yeah, okay. Usually it'd be like,
I was curious if it was that, or if it was just the snare and the hats or something.
No, usually, it's obviously not an open rule, but it's usually a mirror image. Like, even on my own drum kit, I play 2 hats, but if you literally just put the tom on the one side, or my floor tom on my left side, and flip my 2 toms around, it'd be a left-handed kit.
Gotcha.
But again, it's and every drummer's got their own comfort zone, and I pretty much have to rewrite how I play my fills, and it would be really awkward to play, and it wouldn't be as tight as it could be, but it's doable. Mm-hmm. And that's a huge skill for any musician to learn, is just roll with the punches.
Yeah.
As far as mixing, oh man, there's been a lot of crappy shows, but it's never really like, I'm trying to think of a show that maybe equipment was going down or anything like that, but I try to be as redundant as I can. Like, I've never really had anything fail at a festival, because I always try to make backups of everything, and extra this, extra that, and every once in a while something you have to use, but it's rare. I'm trying to think of I can think of a lot of pet peeves that like sound techs have, but there's nothing I can really think that was really like a bad show, to be honest.
Right.
There's definitely shows where you just couldn't wait for it to be over. But it's usually the band just sucked. It's usually or just
it's like there's like 2 drunk guys in the sound tech, and they're like, all right, we got 8 more songs.
It's not even that. It's not even that. It's more just like if the band is just being really problematic, like
just prima donnas.
A
lot of that.
Not even that. Just more like, I don't even know. Like say like the vocalist just has just like one of the whisper vocalists out there, and who thinks that what they hear in the studio is what you can get away with live.
No projection.
Just and obviously we do
that drives me nuts. I hate that.
We do whatever we can, and then you're using every tool you can possibly think of to try to get anything out of them.
Yeah.
And then they 10 seconds later they ask their friends in the front, "Hey, can you hear me out there? Okay, how's the mix sound? Okay?" And I'm like, "Oh my god!" And then obviously you have 10 friends running over to tell you how to do your job. That's oh my god. Other than that, I really can't think of anything that really went down. The only thing I could think of, and it's more just more of a comedic thing. I can't remember what year it was, but I was mixing, I believe, Loud as Hell, and we had I did not connect the power. I did not do the power distro at all on the stage. Usually I try to keep front house on its own, monitors on their own, regardless of even if there is headroom in that power circuit. I try to keep everything in its own little world, so if something goes down, it's easy to track, right?
Yep.
And everything's happy. We're about 4 or 5 bands in. Cool. I get my coffee machine, plug it into a power strip at mix position in front of house, and a whole right half the stage goes out. I'm like, what?
Uh-oh.
So I run over, reset the breaker.
That's a no.
And it comes on for a second and goes out again. I'm like, what is going on?
No.
It took me about 10 minutes to figure out what happened. And I'm like, what did I do in the last little while? Like there's nothing smoking, nothing actually is should be tripping. And I'm like, coffee machine. So someone hooked up the mix position to the same circuit as right side of the stage.
Bad.
And that's all I did. I decided to have a cup of coffee and knock the whole right off the stage out.
So it was that close? There was just that.
It was sitting right there.
Difference?
It was just a coffee machine takes a fair amount of power. Right?
Yeah.
But it was just right there. It was right. So and there was no reason that should have happened. So usually I put mix position on its own little world for that reason.
Okay, so for 15 minutes you just shit bricks. Eh?
Well, I couldn't diagnose it.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on? I kept resetting the breaker and right again because the coffee machine would just come back on.
Yes.
And I'm not even near it. I'm not even near it. Yeah, and I'm like, just a cheap coffee machine with an on button. That's all it was.
God.
And I'm like, what? Oh, I know what it was. And yeah, I unplug it, no problem. Like, and I felt so bad. The band just kept trucking. They were awesome. I can't remember who was playing, but yep. I had a talking to with whoever provided the stage.
Oh my God.
We're gonna redo this tomorrow.
Yeah. So somebody dropped the ball. They needed the electrician.
It was just more. No, it wasn't so much that. Usually the festivals, I'm system tech as well, so I just make sure that the power is distributed correctly and there's headroom.
You want something done right?
Well, and again, it was just an inexperience on his part. That's all it was. Right. And a lot of festivals are volunteer runs. You can't come down on them at all. But it just is what it is. I really can't think of anything that really went weird. Like nothing that's.
How about run-ins with bands? Like bands that just you just lost it on them or you lost their mind.
I try to be as professional as I can with any band I work with.
Yes, but sometimes they do not allow you to be.
I've never. There's been a couple.
Come on, you can do it.
No,
throw
I'm
them under the bus.
I'm not going to throw their names out there. That's for sure.
Throw them under the bus.
No, not going to mention names. But there's a couple bands. I think there's been a couple bands I've told off pretty hard. There's one band they stole their cheese from their rider. That was pretty fun. I was mixing this.
The cheese story.
I was hired to mix support, and the band was headlining, and they were at a local venue here in the city, and they refused to move their stuff off stage. It's fine, bigger band, usually we can stack stuff, but the stage was small and they had a lot of their stuff on stage and they forced the band to play off stage, which is not cool. Not even in front of, not even on remotely the same stage. It's off stage. And I'm like, that's not cool. So the band was doing their VIP.
So this was the headlining band.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the band was doing their VIP thing to a bunch of teeny boppers, and I'm backstage, and I decided to eat all the cheese out of their rider.
Oh.
And it was awesome. And it was. I did not feel bad, and I definitely broke in their bathroom, which is great.
And then there's another part you're not telling. Go ahead. I want everyone to know this.
Wait, which part are we talking about?
So you broke into their bathroom.
Yeah, I broke into their bathroom was unlocked, and I decided to warm their toilet for them. But it was whatever. It is what it is.
Took a massive shit.
I did,
didn't flush
and it was great. And I don't care because they deserved it. And no band needs to treat their support like that. Move your drum kit. You play a 4-piece. Come on, we'll work around everything else. But give the band a stage. Crazy. Whatever.
I've heard that story a few times from
just,
you and retold from other people that you told at some point. I'm pretty sure
it's ridiculous.
And the hot steaming justice is just hysterical.
They weren't happy, but they had no idea who did it.
No, was there a big thing? Did they?
Not really. They kind of complained about it, but it's just no one.
They know now.
Yeah,
they know now who did it.
It's fine. They're not even from Canada, so whatever.
Yeah.
And I had another story that came up here. Hang on a second here. Hopefully it'll come back to me. Shoot. It was another good story. Something like that.
Would it help if I retold the poop story again?
No. Oh shoot. No, I don't remember. It wasn't anything weird like that on there. Nothing I did. Oh man, I wish I remembered now. I had the story at the top of my head and I can't remember now. Wasn't anything to do with the rider. Shoot, I don't know. Maybe it'll come back to me.
That's all right. That's cool. All right. Well, should we call it?
Up to you, man.
It's about time. We've been here for a while. Okay. Well, I appreciate it, man. I really appreciate you coming on here and
My pleasure.
And giving your time and stuff, and getting on the first episode. So it's been a pleasure. You're a wealth of knowledge. A lot of people probably don't know Tyson was probably the first guy that really started to get me into the industry and really helped me get a foot in and learn a lot of the ins and outs of the industry. There's no real good solid rule book out there. It's a lot of it is knowledge that you just kind of have to accumulate and learn, and
100%.
There's mistakes you can make that can end you early if you don't pick up on them. So
yep, like make sure your talkback mic is muted before you tell them they need a new vocalist.
Yeah,
I did that once. He's like, I can hear you, man. I'm like,
oh,
kidding?
Oh, my God. That's brutal.
Yeah, that was
brutal.
Yeah, if you're gonna badmouth the band, don't do it when they can hear you.
The traditional place to badmouth the band is outside while you're smoking.
In all honesty, man, it's like in the grand scheme of things, I've been really lucky to work with some awesome bands out there, man. I really can't think of, especially locally, I can't think of a band that's not awesome to work with.
Right.
I try to make sure if
Well, I can think of a few, but it's great that you're
fair enough.
true to your professionalism.
But again, it's like I'm paid to be there as a tech.
Yeah.
And my job is to do everything I can to make you sound as awesome as I can.
Well, and that's the thing is it's not about your particular taste either, or like what you think of the band or their material. You don't have to like them.
It's my job.
But they can be good.
It's my job. And you know what? And if they're, by all means, if you don't like my style or whatever, I've had that one time, and there was a guy and he just didn't agree with my mixing style or whatever. That's totally fine. Bring your own tech. I'll make sure he's as accommodated as possible.
Right.
I don't care. That's and that's totally fine. I've definitely worked with a lot of touring techs and myself as a tech, mixing other bands, whether it's on tour or other venues. There's no reason to be, you're working there together to try to get the show awesome.
Yeah, nobody wants it to suck.
No,
nobody wants it to suck.
There's no reason to be some grouchy. Just, it's just unreal. I don't understand why. Like that. Obviously you get a little bit annoyed sometimes when you get the same problems over and over and over, and no one seems to listen to you. Like stop cupping your frickin' microphones.
Oh, shots fired. That drives me nuts too.
And it doesn't matter how big the band is.
There's always a debate. There's always somebody who's like, well, no, it creates a different sound.
Yeah, it's because they're not a sound tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's like it's.
Have you ever looked at the design of a 58? Have you ever looked at it?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
it's literally designed.
No, not you, but I mean like the person who's arguing this. Have you ever looked at the design? You don't.
If you don't believe me, call Shure. They'll tell you. They spent millions of dollars designing it to stop feedback and not sound like a toilet bowl. So what you think sounds good through your monitor, it does not sound good through front of house.
No.
And that's why you're feeding back.
Yeah. It also doesn't look that cool. You think it looks cool, but it doesn't look.
It doesn't look that cool. You know what looks really cool, and will get you booked to bigger gigs using your equipment properly.
Yeah.
Like else,
people know what good mic technique looks like.
We could go into a whole list of tiny things on how to look awesome as a band, and it's like, I could go on forever on that. But
we'll do that on another podcast.
Yeah, it's just things that like every tech will agree. Like tune your instruments before you get on stage.
Yep.
Small shows. Obviously, some things can be subjective, but like nothing screams rookie hour more to me than introducing your band on stage to like 10 people.
Yeah.
Nobody cares.
Also, for me, I hate it when you're up there and you're like sound checking and everybody's trying to play it. Like if you're like you see it in new bands, they're really, really anxious to play.
Yeah. And
so they're like all like noodling and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, get your sound check in.
Yeah.
Get it done. Don't look like you're really eager to be up there. It makes you look nervous. Yeah. In my opinion.
I think like, if I was to give like just off the top of my head the top 3 things, just for fun, in the end, as a band, people are paying to come see you play music. Yep. And if you're given a certain amount of time to play that music, your number one goal is to offer as much music and as awesome of a show as possible. And that comes with visuals and all that stuff as well. So instead of your guitarists up there tuning on stage and your vocalist just wandering around.
Yeah.
How do you guys help the drummer set up his kit?
Right.
And while he's checking,
quick changeovers.
Yes,
quick
changeovers.
Yep.
Huge. And maybe instead of bringing 2 412 cabs, how about we look into maybe hiring an LD or a light designer? If you guys don't know what that is, like a show should be more than just audio. You should, like, my own band strives to offer a show that will be entertaining, even if we are all muted somehow.
Yep.
It's huge. Like it really doesn't take a lot of effort. Like I lied. It takes effort for sure, but it doesn't have to cost a lot of money. And talk to people like not just myself, but like obviously like there's a lot of people out there that want to see you awesome, and it makes our jobs easier, and it makes us look better, and everyone looks awesome. Everyone wins, and we will sit down and bullshit with you for hours over a coffee. Buy us a coffee, and we will rattle your brains off with all these cool ideas we have in our heads that we can't really do because we don't play in the band.
And I'll say this too, like there are lots of bands out there, and I mean like that have material that you have to retune between songs and stuff. Now
get a second guitar.
Yeah, that's 100%.
We do the same thing. Now, bang, bang.
Yeah, and depending on how aggressive your changes have to be, what my group does, and again, my band's not huge, it's 3 guys, right? But when we have to detune or we got to change tunings or whatever, we build it into the set that there's designated places to tune where you don't hear or notice a guy tuning because the attention's on somebody else.
That's totally fine.
You just build it into the set. Yeah. You design it that way.
100%. You don't need to. Again, no one needs to have their attention brought to like you guys doing your job.
You're doing it live.
By the way, like, it's time for us to tune. Yeah. No one cares. No one cares. Cool. The song's a different tuning. We didn't even know. Yeah, by all means, if you have to tune on stage, then do it. But
do it creatively.
Don't need to announce it.
You don't
need to announce it.
Don't need to announce it. No, you just all you got to do is build it into the set. We very simple. In our there's one song where we transition from one song to the next, and me and my lead guitarist both need to tune. So I will end the song that goes into the detune song, and he's tuning while I'm doing the ending. And then when he starts the intro, I tune, and then I start the song. Very simple.
Perfect. Yeah,
right? And
totally always do it.
There's a little bit of a gap, but it's not noticeable the same way as if you just see everybody tuning. Right?
Have a steady stream of entertainment. That's really what it comes down to.
Got to keep the energy of the show moving, whether it's up or down or what it's doing. It's got to move.
100%. Dead air sucks, and it's just nothing. Yeah, nothing screams rookie. Like. Yeah, just even things like things can go wrong, equipment can fail.
Yep.
A good tech will help you try to sort that on the fly if they can.
Yep.
We'll learn how to roll with it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately, like we practice, if our ears go down or our click turns off or something like that, practice that. Practice things just dying.
Yep.
Because things can happen, and no matter how well prepared you think you are, it's just, like prime example, I mixed proudly at K-Days on the main stage yesterday, which is awesome.
Ooh.
That was a sweet little it was big. It was a big stage. It was sweet. And I mixed a band called Letters from Pluto, and they were direct support for Aqua, and they're like a soundscape kind of pop thing, and they're pretty cool. And
go check them out.
Yeah, they're awesome. And they had all pro guys, like a lot of guys from Grat Mac and stuff like that. So they're a super tight band. And about maybe I don't know, about halfway-ish through the set, I noticed like a couple odd looks on the vocalist's face, but nothing changed. Like just kept rolling through it, and I'm like, oh, just check and make sure everything looks okay on mine. Yeah, everything's fine. They obviously have a monitor rolled up there on stage, and she's saying that her in-ears were kept dropping out. That could be anything. Maybe they just didn't scan RF on their packs, unfortunately, or something like that. Just something stupid.
Right.
But they rolled through that show, no problem. And like you need to be able to roll with those things, and that's massive. That separates the pros from the enthusiasts, unfortunately, a lot of times. And they're pro band.
And like a lot, like when it comes to equipment and stuff too, like depending on what kind of band or what kind of artist you are too, a lot of the time you may not end up in a venue with the kind of gear that you think that you require a lot of the time. So you may not have monitors. You got to be able to play without monitors. You got to be able to jerry rig little shitty PA systems to make your sound work. Like that's super common.
And I'm lucky. Again, we can go on this forever, but here's a little tiny story, and then I'm sure we can call it.
Yeah, man.
We played a venue in LA. Like fun little venue. It was it was a first time to LA, so we weren't expecting anything big, of course. And we show up at the venue, and we, without going into our whole system, we're all running submixed on an X32 rack, and we're all on in-ears, which means that we supply all our own inputs, all our own microphones, everything like that.
That's the way to do it.
And we don't need to worry about anybody else giving us the information we need in our in-ear mixes. We can be completely unplugged from anything, and we can hear everything that we play, which is great. We show up at the venue. They had one working 500 watt Yamaha top, and
Oh
two subs,
God.
and one was blown. No monitors, fine. They had a little 4-channel Mackie mixer with a dead channel on it, and they had
3-channel.
3-channel mixer. One was a decoration.
Yeah.
And they had 3 other support bands, and so we're all playing death metal, and 3 support bands were crazy loud, and they had their cabs kind of behind the drum kit. You couldn't hear kick or snare at all. It is what it is. It's kind of off the floor. The vocals were kind of doing their best through the PA.
Yeah.
I have our rig set up, so I have all our inputs double fed into channel 17 to 32 through X32 rack. I dropped one line in, did a virtual sound check of us so I can hear what our band sounds like through our stems playing back through that little PA. And we had our own light rig and everything running, and we went back and just played. And it sounds the same there as it would in a stadium as far as we're concerned, because we're playing on in-ears.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take that much to build a system like that. And I sell a music group as well as St. Azure, so if any of you guys need help with that, let me know.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, why not? And but you know what? If you buy the gear for me, I'll do my best to get you the best price I can. However, I will absolutely consult you to anything you'd like for absolutely no cost of whatsoever, because I want to make your life easier, because your life easier means my life is easier, and everyone sounds awesome and everyone's sweet.
That was a mouthful, but it was a beautiful slogan.
Yes, because let's just make fun music. That's just what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And get lights, and then hire me for pyro, because that'd be cool.
Yeah, Tyson is also a licensed pyrotech.
Yeah, I like fire and subs.
Yes.
And strobes.
So
and
okay,
red.
so Tyson, what do you have? What do you have coming up? Do you have any specific shows or any big events? Anything that you want to plug?
Yeah, come see Display at Decay at Loudest Hill and watch me try to mix myself.
What's the date?
This weekend. We are playing
this
on
may not be up by then.
Well, that's junk. This podcast sucks.
Oh.
We're not playing locally for the indefinite future.
This podcast is international.
It's fine. We're not. We're going to play once in our region every year, unless something huge comes along.
As it should be.
And that's what we want to do. We want to make sure that we are offering a brand new show every time. That is, to our best for our abilities when everyone sees us. So if we're playing, say, Edmonton, let's hypothetically say we play tomorrow. A year's time, we want a brand new show, whether it's new material, whether it's a new light show, whether it's new special effects, whatever it is.
A mix of those things.
Yeah. We want to be able to offer new experience every time.
Right.
To us, that's hugely important, and appeal to all 5 senses. That's what we try to do.
Right.
Other than that, like I said, after this festival, I've got a fairly large Indian festival in about a month at the Butterdome. That's 2 simultaneous weekends. That's a lot of work. Man, you want to see some crazy musicianship? Go watch an Indian band.
They got those crazy different instruments too.
Playing in a death metal band is nothing when it comes to the endurance that these guys have. They play for like 9-10 hours straight.
Jesus.
Can you imagine singing for 10 straight hours?
No.
And then coming back the next day and doing it again?
Nope.
And then the next day and they're doing it again?
Nope.
It's insane. Absolutely incredible. If you ever have a chance to check out like an Indian festival, it's it's neat. It's pretty neat, man. And everyone's in their colorful costumes, and everyone knows all the dances, and I'm really out of place and cool.
Kind of sounds like Pride.
What's that?
Kind of sounds like Pride.
It's not Pride. It's much older than Pride, and it's pretty cool. And it's like I can't remember exactly what the event is called per se, but it's cool. It's really neat.
It's an open event, like people could just show up to that.
It is a paid ticket event,
but like it's public though. Like it's
anybody can show up to it for sure. Okay. Yeah, there's like thousands of people there, man. And it's like, think of it like going to like a country western event. Think of it like going to like Big Valley Jamboree, but it's like one band playing constantly.
Oh, okay.
And they're all the different songs, obviously.
Right.
But every single person knows every line dance, and they're all doing it until 2 a.m.
Wow.
It's really neat, and it's like
it's just a big cultural phenomenon.
Oh yeah, it's a big. I believe it's just East Indian. I'm pretty sure it's East Indian.
It's like a Hindi thing type.
Yeah. Kind of. Yeah, it's neat though. It's really neat. It's not really like Bollywood per se. It's more like their kind of version of folkish, I guess.
Yeah. I was gonna say like a folk type. Yeah, like.
And I've done their event last couple of years, and it's neat to mix like all these different instruments you never would mix in most other places. They have their own little thing.
Right.
And it's cool, man. It's like I can't like we ended up having a drummer last year. He'd come to us after like the 3rd day, and we're like putting spike tape on his fingers because they're just raw from drumming. And he's like,
really?
"Yeah, okay, I'm good." I'm like, "I give up.
Really?
I quit. This is like it's not like overly complicated, but it's all up tempo, right?
I can't imagine that. Like taping up, like your
Yeah.
fingers are, like that's a big thing.
That's
Like,
a professional
play till
musician.
your fingers bleed. He's like, I'll just tape them up. Like,
Yep.
what?
Awesome. I'd be like, oh man, I don't know any drummers that would do that.
No.
I'd be like, man, my grip sucks. I need to work on my grip. We have to shorten our set.
Yeah,
10 hours.
Crazy.
Crazy.
I know drummers are like, I got my arthritis in my wrist.
I blame everything I can on everything as much as possible. Yeah.
So I'm getting old.
Yeah. My pedals were an inch out from where they needed to be. That's why my double pace playing sucked today. That's my I'm gonna find something new every time.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why we try to run as many backing tracks as we don't actually. We run just enough. But yeah, it's cool, man. If you have a chance to check out other cultural music, it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I did a powwow last year. That was really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called.
Like it's like a traditional
powwow. Oh, it was cool. It was really cool, and they are loud.
Yeah.
Well, their vocals. Wow, that's projection right there.
Really?
Holy crap! Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, man. World music's cool.
That is cool.
Yep.
That's really cool. There you go. See, that's culture. That's diversity for you.
Yep.
That's really neat.
And that's
everybody talks about that, but people don't just go out to these things like this. And
it's awesome, man. Like every once in a while, like one of the techs I also work with, he's Jamaican, and he ends up doing a lot of the he's a tech for his own like African church, like a black church.
Yeah.
And they have every once in a while they do like other events and stuff like that. So I've mixed a few of those events, and that's
so
cool.
That's like soul gospel choir.
Yeah, like if you think like black gospel choir church,
right.
like that's what they do. And like usually you're treated with some pretty cool musicianship, man.
Right.
It's like a lot of them are just like they're total closet musicians and they wail.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is 90% better or better than 90% of the bands I work with.
Right.
And it's crazy. And they do their thing on Sunday to 10 people.
Because they have a different respect for the craft, right? They're doing it for a different reason.
Yeah.
And maybe they're a little more self-conscious than some of these bands are. Like, yeah, I'm the best. I'm going to be the new Green Day.
Maybe. But maybe it's almost like a reverse bias as a white guy, but there's definitely there's more skilled vocalists in these African churches than there are in like the all white churches. From what I've heard, they rip, and they usually all have pretty good mic
There's
technique.
definitely some cultural roots there too when it comes to
for sure
African American
African. It's all like traditional African stuff, and it's usually like music is super embedded in that culture, of course, right?
Yeah,
and it's old.
Yeah,
that's for sure. So, yep,
very cool.
Yeah,
Mr. Tyson. Thank you very much,
Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure, man. Anytime. Let's do this again.
We will do it again.
Episode 2.
And 3, and 4.
And 3, and 4.
6, and 7.
You know what I don't like? No.
Awesome. Thank you so much, buddy.
My pleasure, man.
Peace.
Cheers.